It's all ego. You would never find me with an ego like that. Not with my fallopian tubes.
Comes to the numbers. Spoiler alert, kind of exactly what we expect. Ironheart ratings in the gutter.
Now, Thorne delivered the following in a desperate play to salvage the series. I think Marvel fans, she says, just need to take a step back and to stop focusing on our support for both diversity and LGBTQ and claiming that as some form of a hidden message.
In this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slug.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable.
This show basically keyed their car, their mom, and in their bowl of cereal, and might be one of the worst executed ideas ever in the MCU, because under all that garbage was actually potential.
Ironheart was supposed to be Marvel's next legacy hero, a fresh face to carry the MCU into a bold new era, young, brilliant, and full of promise. But instead of soaring, the show plummeted into obscurity. And at the center of this freefall, Dominique Thorne. Once called Marvel's next big thing, Dominique now finds herself at the heart of one of the biggest embarrassments the franchise has ever seen. But how did it go so wrong? Why did Marvel go completely silent? And how did one rising star turn a dream role into a career crisis? This isn't just a failed show, this is a meltdown.
He deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. After I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable. Toot toot, Jerry laughs. Yes, there is an alphabet character. They admit Ironheart sucks, but look, they're getting ready to blame you for it because Ironheart fulfills low expectations with weak narrative, poorly written characters, and dull act.
When Marvel Studios first announced Ironheart, it didn't just turn heads, it raised eyebrows. A teenage genius building her own Iron Man suit? It sounded bold, fresh, even exciting. The idea of Riri Williams stepping in to carry on Tony Stark's legacy was packed with potential. And Dominique Thorne, relatively unknown, but full of energy. The casting was meant to be Marvel's next Robert Downey Jr. moment. Lightning in a bottle. Even her cameo in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever felt like a soft launch, a calculated move to introduce audiences to their new tech-savvy prodigy before handing her the keys to her own series. The stakes were high, the budget was massive, and the message from Marvel was loud and clear. This is the future. But behind the curtain, something wasn't quite right. From the start, production was messy. Creative leads were swapped, scripts were rewritten, deadlines kept slipping. Ironheart's identity kept changing. Was it a superhero origin, a college drama, a sci-fi mystery? No one seemed to know. Rumors started swirling. Internal leaks hinted at confusion behind the scenes. Even the core premise, Riri's tech brilliance, got buried under layers of forced dialogue, awkward pacing, and over-the-top CGI. And through it all, Dominique stayed quiet. Too quiet. While Marvel stars are usually hyper-engaged online, hyping fans, teasing cameos, building momentum, Dominique was radio silent. No behind-the-scenes hype, no TikToks, no interviews that felt genuine. Just an eerie detachment that made fans wonder, was something off? It didn't take long for the awkward energy to bleed into the press cycle. In early interviews, Dominique made it clear. She wasn't trying to be the next Iron Man. She was Riri, her own thing. But instead of energizing fans, her tone came off as dismissive. When die-hard Marvel fans raised concerns about the show's early tone and odd pacing, she brushed them off as ignorant or premature. She seemed more interested in proving a point than connecting with the fandom. And if there's one rule Marvel should know by now, it's that fans don't reward arrogance. They reward connection. Dominique wasn't trying to meet the fans halfway. She was already acting like she'd won. When Ironheart finally dropped on Disney+, the silence from Marvel was deafening. No red carpet premiere, no explosive press campaign, no major crossover buzz. It felt cautious, nervous. And the reviews? Brutal. Words like soulless, unfocused, and unwatchable filled headlines. YouTube reactions were savage. Twitter threads dissected every frame. And Marvel's once loyal subreddit exploded with criticism. By episode 3, viewership had cratered, down over 75%. People weren't just bored, they were actively turning the show off. The story felt shallow, the characters flat, the CGI overcooked. Even the tone shifted wildly, from teen angst to lecture-heavy drama to meaningless action sequences. For a show that was supposed to honor Tony Stark's legacy, it felt more like a weak impersonation. And the worst part? It was getting ignored by Marvel itself. In Hollywood, when a major project flops, studios don't stay quiet. They never stay quiet. There's usually a scramble. Executives hitting the press circuit, stars making the rounds on late-night shows, PR teams spinning narratives faster than a tabloid rumor mill. Even disasters get a post-mortem glow-up. But with Ironheart, there was nothing. No statements, no clarifications, not even a vague promise to listen to fans and do better. Marvel, the studio once revered for micromanaging every frame, every cameo, every tweet, suddenly went radio silent. Kevin Feige, the face of the franchise, absent. The writers and showrunners, nowhere to be found. Even supporting cast members who'd once shared behind-the-scenes clips and glowing anecdotes fell quiet. It was as if Marvel had collectively decided Ironheart didn't exist. Even Robert Downey Jr., a man who had once carried the Marvel Cinematic Universe on his back, who was brought out during early promo phases to lend credibility and nostalgia to the project, mysteriously disappeared from the conversation. And in that eerie void of silence, all eyes turned to the star, Dominique Thorne, alone, exposed, cracking under the pressure. One night, with no warning and no Marvel approval, Dominique Thorne opened up Instagram Live. What followed wasn't just emotional, it was combustible, raw, messy, unfiltered. Fans who tuned in expecting a composed reflection got something else entirely, a firestorm. She called critics afraid of progress, accused fandoms of being entitled and regressive, claimed the show failed not because of poor writing or disjointed pacing, but because the audience wasn't ready for a black female genius leading the charge. But that wasn't all. She began posting receipts, screenshots of script notes she claimed were ignored, voice messages sent to producers asking for character depth, claims that she was sidelined in creative decisions and told to just trust the process. Instead of calming the waters, Dominique lit the whole ocean on fire. The backlash was instant. In the modern media cycle, nothing travels faster than failure. And Dominique's unfiltered live stream, it was the perfect match to ignite a digital wildfire. Within minutes, commentary channels launched full-blown breakdowns of her remarks. Clips of her Instagram Live were clipped, captioned, and stitched across TikTok with sarcastic commentary. YouTubers with millions of subscribers went live with reaction streams titled Ironheart Implodes Marvel's Worst PR Nightmare and Dominique Thorne Just Killed Her Career, Love. By the next day, the narrative wasn't about Ironheart's flop. It was about Dominique's meltdown. One video, Ironheart, How to Destroy a Franchise in 6 Episodes, skyrocketed past 1 million views in just 48 hours. The video dissected every episode with surgical precision, tearing apart the writing, direction, CGI shortcuts, and, most brutally, Dominique's performance. On TikTok, the hashtag IronFlop trended globally. Edits mocked the dialogue. Fans reenacted cringe-inducing scenes, especially the now infamous moment where Riri lectures a Wakandan council with what many called Saturday morning cartoon logic. Others created fake trailers for a reboot with captions like Ironheart, this time with writing. Reddit was equally relentless. The Marvel Studios subreddit, once a place of hype and celebration, now hosted upvoted threads titled Recast Riri Now and Dominique Thorne is not our Iron Legacy. Petitions began circulating demanding a total creative reset. And Twitter, it turned into a digital coliseum. You didn't build a legacy, you inherited one and set it on fire. RDJ was Iron Man. You're a footnote Marvel already regrets. Even the MCU's most loyal defenders, the same fans who found redeeming qualities in Thor, Love, and Thunder, were silent. The silence said everything. Dominique had lost the room. And worse, she had no studio behind her to catch her fall. Then came the most chilling move. Not a statement, not a tweet, but an erasure. First, the Disney Plus homepage shifted. Ironheart, which had once occupied prime carousel space as a bold new chapter in the MCU, quietly vanished. Users had to search manually to even find the show, and even then, it was buried behind legacy titles. Then, fans noticed something more troubling. The show's algorithmic footprint began to disappear. No more suggested for you banners. No, if you liked Ms. Marvel, try Ironheart. It was as if the algorithm had been manually instructed to let the series fade into digital dust. Soon after, Ironheart merchandise was pulled from Disney's online store. T-shirts, Funko Pops, even the collectible Stark Tech Riri gauntlets, all marked out of stock, discontinued, or simply gone. In Disney parks, character appearances were canceled, standees and posters quietly removed. On Marvel's official YouTube channel, something even stranger happened. Dominique's press interviews, red carpet clips, and behind-the-scenes featurettes, videos with thousands, sometimes millions of views, were scrubbed. Deleted without comment, fan-favorite scenes that had been clipped for promo, unlisted, sizzle reels from D23 Expo where Feige called Riri the next Iron Man, gone. Even the official Ironheart teaser trailer was no longer featured on Marvel's homepage. And on social media, Dominique's own presence grew eerie. Posts vanished. Comments were disabled. Her Instagram went dark for days. Her Twitter header, a shot of her in the Ironheart suit, was removed. Her bio no longer mentioned Marvel. Insiders called it a quiet cancellation. Fans called it Disney's digital Thanos snap. The message was clear. Ironheart was no longer canon. Not officially, not spiritually, not algorithmically. Marvel wasn't just walking away. They were pretending it never happened. In hindsight, Ironheart was never just a TV show. It was a litmus test for what Marvel was becoming, and what fans feared it already had. It stood at the intersection of overloaded expectations, misplaced priorities, and a studio increasingly distracted by its own hype machine. A character meant to usher in a new era instead became the symbol of everything going wrong. Ironheart didn't fail because the protagonist was black, young, or female. It failed because the character was hollow, the arc unearned, and the storytelling utterly detached from emotional resonance. Representation without narrative weight is just window dressing. And fans felt it. Dominique's Riri Williams had potential. She was brilliant, brave, and in theory, the perfect spiritual heir to Tony Stark. But the show gave her no arc of sacrifice, no moment of earned triumph. She started at 100 and stayed there. There was no journey, no pain, no evolution. Instead of showing us why Riri mattered, Marvel told us, and expected applause. It was Marvel trying to capture relevance instead of magic, the kind of misfire that happens when studios chase headlines over heart. Worse, it marked a growing trend in Phase 5 and beyond: performative progressivism. Stories designed to win praise rather than win over audiences. Shallow narratives with characters who check every box except the one that matters most: believability. And in Dominique's case, what could have been a groundbreaking performance became a cautionary tale. Because when she finally spoke up, fans didn't see passion. They saw blame. Instead of accountability, they saw deflection. Instead of leadership, they saw entitlement. Instead of a hero, they saw a symbol unraveling. And Marvel watched it all unfold and said nothing. Their silence wasn't just strategic, it was damning. The dust has settled, the hashtags have cooled, the memes have faded. But for Dominique Thorne, the silence left in the wake of Ironheart's collapse feels louder than ever. Today, her name is nowhere near Marvel's upcoming projects. No cameos, no end credit teases, no surprise appearances in Armor Wars, Young Avengers, or even What If. There's no merchandise bearing her likeness, no invitations to Marvel panels, no cast reunions. She's absent from everything. Even retrospectives of Phase 5 barely acknowledge her arc. The MCU, once famous for long-term storytelling, seems to have amputated an entire branch from its universe tree and done so without flinching. Behind the scenes, the whispers grew louder. Industry insiders suggest her contract was allowed to lapse quietly. Others hint at a non-renewal by mutual agreement. Hollywood speak for a blacklisting without saying the word. Agents stopped pitching her as the next tech-powered Marvel queen. Casting directors now refer to her as high-risk talent. The buzz that once surrounded her like a rocket's ignition flame has gone cold. Meanwhile, Dominique's social media presence remains irregular. Flashes of activism, occasional modeling shoots, but no Hollywood chatter. No set photos, no can't wait to share what's next. Just stillness. What was supposed to be a career-launching moment became a burn mark, a cautionary tale, not just for Dominique, but for Marvel itself. Ironheart wasn't just a show that failed, it became the symbol of Marvel's post-Endgame identity crisis. A franchise once known for meticulous world building now stumbles through multiversal chaos, streaming fatigue, and increasingly disinterested fans. And Dominique, she became the unintended martyr for that shift. Her story isn't about villainy or victimhood. It's about a system that promised greatness but delivered pressure. A studio that gave her a title, but not a story. A role that came with expectation, but no preparation. And Dominique? She responded not with diplomacy, but with fire. Was it fair? Was it earned? Those debates will linger in comment sections for years. But one truth remains. She was handed Marvel's future and watched it dissolve in real time. Not because she wasn't talented, but because talent without support is like armor without power. It looks strong until it's tested. And for Dominique Thorne, Ironheart wasn't just a missed opportunity. It might have been her final scene.